from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Que Pasa Nashville.
Bienvenidos and welcome to Que Pasa Nashville. My name is Cristina Allen and I'm your host, and thank you for joining us. Today my guest is Ashford Hughes, who is the new Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer at the Mayor's Office. Congratulations, Ashford, for that position, well deserved, as well as for being here today.
Thank you, my pleasure, my pleasure.
So what exactly is this new, is it a new position, or is it a created position, or is it someone you took a position from?
It's kind of a combination of both. Under Mayor Berry, in her first term, she appointed Michelle Hernandez-Lane, the first Chief Diversity Officer. I've been fortunate enough that Mayor Briley has now appointed me the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the city. So it's kind of taken on a little more roles around equity and inclusion.
And define, because I love the word inclusion and the word intentional and anything that has to do with diversity. Tell me exactly what that means and how do you work with all the other different departments?
So it's important that we talk about diversity and adding more, not just racial diversity, but age diversity, diversity of ideas, but we also want to make sure that they're inclusive. So diversity is inviting you to the dance. Inclusion is making certain that someone invites you on the floor to dance. So that's what I feel like my role is right now within the city. So we're looking at what are we doing with all our department heads, with everything in metro government, to make certain that the policies are reflective of, one, the people that we represent. As you know, Nashville is a growing, diverse city every day, and we want to make sure that those policies are inclusive to making certain that we have more women in leadership positions, more people of color in leadership positions, that we're making certain that our police department is diverse as the community they represent. So my role would be kind of twofold, making certain that everything that we do in Metro has an equity lens, a racial equity lens, but also that we're putting in policies that are going to be inclusive to those communities that may in the past have felt like they haven't had a chance to be included in what Metro resources or government has to offer.
So about, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe three, a study came out on the human relations of our, I guess, workforce. And I think it was under Mayor Dean, and what that really meant in terms of our inequity.
Yep.
Was it a statewide or was it a citywide?
It was citywide.
Okay, and in that study, it showed the disparities between male, female,
yep, in
positions of titles and pay.
Yep.
It also had a very, not broad, but the minority aspects of it, not just white males, women,
yep,
white males, minorities. And so that was, I remember that was an election component of those running when Mayor Berry won. And now it's like, it still needs to be addressed. And,
yep,
and the word is not the word address. It needs to be highlighted within all areas. But you still have a lot of people, maybe Caucasian, in these positions. How do you do culture training to them? Because you're not going to exclude the white male.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people think when they think diversity or inclusion, it means non-white males.
Yep.
And I think that is a something you're going to have to encounter. How are you dealing with that?
So I think one of the first things that we've been trying to address over the last couple of years, because prior to me being in this role, I served as Mayor Berry's senior advisor for workforce, diversity, and inclusion still. So I think what we've been in the process of doing is making certain that Nashville, Davidson County, is that we have a diversity action plan. What does diversity and inclusion look like for the city? I believe it's really important to put stuff down on paper, because then it becomes intentional and then it becomes something that is a document.
And measurable.
And measurable. So we've been working to that right now. We've also been looking at our policies and sitting down and talking with department heads about how can we in the mayor's office, how can we working with Metro HR, and they are a big supporter and a partner with us on this. How can we make certain that we are giving our department heads the best opportunities they can and giving them the best support they can to make certain that the employees they represent and serve are feeling as though they're being inclusive to the process, and that they understand that diversity is more than just ethnic diversity. So we're bringing in partnerships, we're having conversations, then we feel like we can begin to move the needle. This whole diversity and inclusion component to Metro is something that's we're really taking on strong the last 3 years, so it's not something that's going to change overnight. We're going to be in this for the long haul, but in the short time, we can actually have those conversations, begin to agree on what we want our city to look like from the metro government level. And hopefully when we do that, we can have that be a culture change for not just metro government, but the total Nashville ecosystem in total.
All right, so I have some questions based on what you said. How are you learning about this? Do you look at other cities that are doing it right and how you get best practices to bring them here?
Oh yeah, so for the last 2.5 years, we've been working with organizations like Partnership for Working Families, Policy Link. Some of these are West Coast organizations that have done this type of work over the last 15, 20 years.
Because they've already dealt with this early on.
Yes.
So, well, because I believe the diversity component is not just African American.
Yep.
People have, even though that's what it used to be. When I arrived in 1988, there weren't many Hispanics. Now it's going to be projected in the year 2040 to be 34% of Davidson County through Mayor Dean's Nashville Next.
Yep.
And so it's now we have Caucasians, African Americans, all of a sudden we have Hispanics, and then we have the largest Kurdish population,
Somali
Egyptian
population.
So all of those are a component which we have to be business savvy to be able to take the position. So you're not going to give a position just because of their ethnicity. They're going to have to be qualified.
And that's where the partnership comes from. Myself and Vanessa Lazone in the Office of New Americans, we've been working diligently to make certain that when it comes to workforce opportunities, that we go into the areas of the community that is growing and representing new cultures, new communities, and have different job fairs, different community meetings to let them know that metro government is wanting to be more inclusive to them, trying to build up partnerships and relationships with more Latino businesses, more new American businesses, more women-owned businesses in different areas, to really let them know we are here to be a support system, but we want to grow. As much as we always talk about the racial component of ethnicity, of diversity, we know that businesses thrive when there's a diverse ideologies, when there's diverse religious aspects. We are trying to really infuse that into what we do in Metro just to make our city better than what it is today.
So in the 1970s, a man named Nelson Andrews, he helped start Leadership Nashville. He did a lot of initiatives. He also started the Davidson Group. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with the Davidson Group.
The Davidson Group in the 1970s is when Nelson Andrews realized, when they did the 440 and all the Jefferson Street, how that there was no black representation in the decisions made within that black neighborhood. And in doing so, it was trying to just a social thing to partner up whites with blacks to have lunch, coffee together to understand it's about a business. Bottom line, it's about business, it's an economic impact, it's sales and growth. And when you look at that component, then you see that race doesn't matter. It's about sales and opportunity for everyone. And that became very successful. Then it died down, and in 2004 it was relaunched under the Lipscomb University under civic leadership. And they are now trying to revamp it. But in 2004 it was revamped, and it included whites, blacks, Hispanics, and others. And at that time I got involved and was paired up with someone. Again, it was to build relationships with someone different on a business case, because business has no color, it's only green. And so is that the role you're realizing, not just the business component, but the diverse in thought, diverse in solutions, diverse in I guess procedures? I mean, does that play a role in it all? I mean,
it's a big role. Trust in communities, trust in government right now isn't where it should be. So within my role, not just professionally, but even personally, I really and strongly believe in bringing communities together. In some of my own time, working on a project right now to do just that between African American communities and Hispanic Latino communities, to find the commonality that we have amongst each other and really work and build those relationships that we can then foster business partnerships, community partnerships. I think it is very, very important. Right now you see a city that right now is kind of hurting, and we're looking for those avenues that we can really find places to come together and build relationships together. We all have some of the same common goals that we want to achieve. We want to live a happy life. We want to be able to provide for our families, and I believe fostering relationships between different communities and letting everybody know where we stand on specific issues and working towards a common goal is what we can do, and that's what I hope to do in this role for the city.
Okay, so when you look at working with your different departments within Metro, where have you found success in, like I said, like a job fair? Where has that benefited the Metro HR to get a more different scope of applicants? I mean, is that what the objective is there?
It is. So last year we were working with our esteemed Councilman Fabian Bedney. We held a Metro job fair at the Southeast Community Center. This was specifically geared towards letting the Southeast community,
which is a very diverse area,
community, know about the opportunities that existed currently working in Metro. So we had the police department, fire department. We had all, I think we had about 20 Metro departments that came out there for a weekend all day to really stand out there and let them know, hey, we may not have a job available for you, but we want to be more connected with your community. But these are the jobs that other departments have available. We found success in that. I think coming from that event, we had like maybe 12 people that were hired on through Metro. So we want to continue that process.
But the incremental impression and outreach was probably so, you know, hundreds and thousands of impressions you gave to that group.
It was, and we still want to do more and do better. It was the first time, so we learned from mistakes. We learned from what communications didn't work, because you can't communicate to every community, every organization the same way as you do in North Nashville, as you do in the Southeast. So working with the community, we also found different ways that the community wanted to be engaged to find out what was taking place in Metro and how they did fit in Metro. We have a lot of new communities coming in, and some of our older community members that have been here for a long time that don't recognize what's happening in the Metro government, and we need to do a better job and letting people know what's happening, how they do fit into what we're trying to do.
And that their opinion counts.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break, Ashford. We're going to take a quick break and come back with Ashford Hughes, who's the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the Mayor's Office, and continue to talk about opportunities that might be for you as well. We'll be right back.